Hey guys, how are you? You are tuned in to another episode on the Woman Who Roar series. And today we have a super special guest. But before I tell you about her, I'm your host, Victoria Jen, inspirational queen, serial entrepreneur. And today you guys are going to hear from the original voice, y'all, of Siri. Yes, it is true. Siri. From your iPhone, yes. Your homegirl Siri, yes. You ever wondered who's the voice behind Siri? Well, today you're gonna meet exactly who that is. And I'm so excited to bring her to you guys. She has an amazing background. She's done voiceovers for McDonald's, Macy's, Goodyear, Papa John's. She's been on the Mariah Carey Christmas specials. She's been on the Queen Latifah Show. She's been on CNN. She's been on David Letterman, y'all. And she has become accidentally famous, is how she likes to coin it. So today we're going to learn about her journey, how she's been able to do it, and what's this voiceover business? I don't know about you guys, but I've always wondered how these people make a living and how do you get into this business and how we can all get paid just to speak, right? I mean, I think that's the dream. I don't know about you guys. So we're just waiting for her to join so I can plug her in. I want to make sure she hasn't already joined. Susan, if you're in here, let me know. Leave a comment so I can make sure to send you a request so we can get this interview started. I hope you guys are feeling good today and did as much as possible to smile. If not, smile right now because you guys are in for a treat. Okay? Okay. Oh, something else she's also done. She was the voiceover. If you guys ever taken Delta Airlines, and you know how they usually show the commercial as you're like about to get into flight, and they tell you like their commercial about all the offerings that they have. Well, the voice for the Delta Airlines Gates Nationwide campaign that you guys would see when you take the Delta airline, she is also the voice behind that. I mean, how cool is that? Like I said, just a super, super cool person. And I'm just waiting for her to hop in here so we can go ahead and get live. So tell a friend this is going down. Now is your opportunity to do it as she's getting ready to come in here so we can go ahead and start this interview. But like I said, I'm super excited because I've always wanted to know how these people make a living. Because I think I got the voice for it. What you think? I think I got the voice for it. Somebody's saying she's in here. Susan, if you're in here, please leave a comment so I can request you so we can go live together because I cannot find you. And I want to make sure you're in here. There you go. I see the request. Let's go, Susan. And we're going to get started. Hey!
There it is.
How are you, beautiful? How are you today?
Doing great. How are you?
I am fabulous. So I was just warming folks up and telling them about you and kind of your background, but you can sell yourself better than I can. So please tell the people who you are.
Okay, well, wow. Let's see. I'm a singer, a voice actor, a speaker, and the original voice of Siri. All those things.
And what else? Because I know you're fabulous beyond that.
Well, basically that's most of it. That's as far as career-wise, that's what I have been doing for many decades now. And I started everything off as a singer and keyboard player, and then sort of fell into the voiceover business, and also it fell into the speaker business, resulting from my good friend Siri.
Yeah, I think that's everybody's homegirl for sure. She's everybody's girlfriend.
That's exactly right.
So talk to me about how you got into the voiceover business, because I'm very curious about how that business works and how somebody gets started.
Well, the way I started is very unusual, and it's not the way people get started today, because when I started, technology was totally different at the time. And I used to be what was known as a jingle singer. I used to sing for radio and TV commercials. And one day we did a commercial and the voice actor didn't show up to read the copy for the spot. So the owner of the studio said, "Susan, you don't have an accent. Come over here and read this copy." And so I thought, oh, ding, 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 I can do this. So I got a voice coach and a talent agent, and I've been doing voiceover ever since.
Interesting. So that's how it started. So how do you, so the jingle business, do you need to be like a professional singer in order to get onto a jingle, or how does that work?
No, I would have to say a lot of most successful voice actors come from music because a lot of reading scripts and everything has to do with rhythm. They come from music or they come from acting. A lot of actors do voiceover work as well. Where else? DJs, that sort of thing. But if you want to get into the voiceover business now, if you're really serious about it, just contact me through my website and I'll send you a doc that I put together. But basically what you have to have is a very good demo, a short demo, like 60 seconds. But you have to have the skills because it's very, very competitive. Everybody wants to do it because they're all hoping to get that big national commercial that's going to pay thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Of course, most of the work is not like that, but it's a huge industry and there are a lot of different aspects to it. You can do radio and TV commercials, animation, gaming, e-learning, narrations for documentaries and film, promos, movie trailers. I mean, it's just endless, and it can be very lucrative if you can get a lot of work. So,
like if you become known as a voice, you're saying?
Well, you don't even have to be known. I mean, you need to be known as far as, I mean, amongst your peers and amongst the people, the casting. But basically, what we have to do is we have to look for a job every day. We all have to audition, even when people know us. Sometimes, I mean, I can't tell you the number of times that I've auditioned for a Siri-like voice and didn't get it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So are you able to like turn it on and turn it off? Like, does that come easy for you, or do you practice? Like, how does that work?
Well, I don't practice at this point, having done it for so many years, but yes, I can turn the Siri voice on whenever I want. And I can tell you what to do. In fact, I love telling you what to do.
So what's the difference between the original voice of Siri and the Siri we hear now? Like, what happened there?
Well, it's a different voice actor, and that changed with operating system 11, I think, with the iPhone X. And what they decided to do was use a younger sounding voice. And so I say that the new Siri is a millennial. And yeah, and so I'm sure that they did a lot of testing and decided to try to, zero in on the 18 to 34 year old group. So yeah, they changed the voice. And of course, the first one is the best, but
obviously. So do you ever like confuse the different voice tones that you like use for the different projects you work on?
Well, I think it's, when you're in this business, and as I said, it's so competitive, that it's important for you to be as versatile as possible. There are a lot of different things that you have to do. First of all, especially if you're working in commercial work, you have to be able to read commercials in 15 seconds, 30 seconds, or 60 seconds. And many times the scripts for these things are too long. So, you really have to get some skills and some practice. I always recommend that people take acting classes and even do improv classes just to boost your confidence. Improv classes are great for any kind of business. I think it just gives you it helps you learn to think on your feet, and then you're able to just handle things more easly, things that just kind of come to you as a surprise.
Got it.
But it's, it's like any other business. There are certain skills to learn. But the more versatile you can be, the more chances you have of working are.
Interesting. So when you used to prepare for this Siri voiceovers, like, did they give you like a full deck of just sayings that you needed to record? Like, how did you come up with the script for it? Like, how does that work?
Well, it was multiple scripts, and it took a very long time to record. I had to read phrases and sentences that were created just for sound. They were trying to get all the sound combinations in the language, because what they would do is after the recordings were done, they would go in, technicians and computers would go in and extract sounds, reform these sounds back into new phrases and sentences, and these are what ended up on our devices. So it's a very crazy process called concatenation, and the scripts were very wacky because they were created for sound, not at all for meaning or content. So I had to read crazy phrases like cow hoist in the tub hut today, say schist fresh issue today, fossa, ask fossy, And then there were very repetitive things just over and over and over. And because everything had to be consistent, everything was almost in a monotone, so that all of the sounds would be the same when they went into the recordings to extract them and put them back together. So it was kind of tedious, very tedious work. And the initial work that I did that ultimately became the voice of Siri was in 2005. And I worked 4 hours a day, 5 days a week for the month of July, 2005. And then I did 4 more months in 2011 and 12, doing a lot of, GPS directions and things like that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you were able to, because that's like a full Rolodex. I have people ask Siri crazy things, and like, how did they know like how to respond to certain things? Like, that sounds like a lot of things for you to cover.
Well, yeah. As far as the programmers being able to come up with these things, in my presentation, I talk a little bit about that. I've said that, the recordings are very tedious, but it was probably a bit tedious on the other end, extracting the sounds and putting them together. But I think that the folks working on Siri probably had a lot more fun than people working on other things like GPS voices or something. Because Siri, that's what made Siri so interesting and so iconic, is that she had a personality and a sense of humor. And people would talk to Siri just to hear some of the crazy things that she'd come back with. Now, technically, I have no idea how that was done, because one of life's great ironies is the voice of Siri is a complete non-techie. So I can't begin to tell you how that worked.
Interesting. So what was it like hearing like your work on so many devices? Like, what is that like?
Yeah. Well, I was used to hearing myself on, radio and TV commercials and sometimes in films and things like that. But to hear my voice coming out of this little computerized phone was just too creepy. I couldn't talk to Siri. And anyway, she dissed me the very first time I talked to her. So
no, she didn't. How did she
diss
you?
I said, "Hi, Siri, what are you doing?" And she very disgustedly said, "I'm talking to you." I said,
oh my God.
Okay, I won't bother you anymore.
Oh my God. So freaking cool. So did you think that while you were, working on Siri, that it would blow to this capacity? Like, did you know it had that type of potential?
Well, when I've talked to other Siri voices about this, when we were doing the recordings, we had no idea that anything like Siri would ever exist. It was the techie people and the people working on AI who started working on AI back in the late 60s. I mean, it took all this time for, these types of voices and AI to be public and to actually come to fruition. And so we thought we were just doing some sort of generic phone messaging type of stuff. We knew the scripts were a little odd, but the idea of being the voice of Siri, it was a surprise when I first heard the Siri voice when she appeared on October 4th, 2011. And someone emailed me and said, "Hey, I think we're playing with this new iPhone app. I think this is you." And I went on the Apple site and listened and went, "Well, how did that happen?" Pretty crazy.
What are some major learnings you had from working on a project as huge as Siri turned out to be that you apply now? Because I'm pretty sure there were a lot of learnings, because as you said, you had no idea that it would be this big. So what are some learnings?
Well, I think that first of all, it's good for you to have a good agent and know exactly what you're doing when you get into some of the projects that you do. And a lot of voiceover work has gone non-union now, so you don't have a union there to fight for you if something goes wrong. So you just have to be very careful. Watch what you sign. Read the fine print. But as far as just doing voiceover work, that type of work was very difficult because it was long form work. It's like maybe what audiobooks are today, although audiobooks probably aren't as difficult because the narrator is doing a lot of different voices and reading with emotion. And when you're reading without emotion, you're speaking like this for long periods of time, and it gets very tedious and it's very weird on your vocal cords. And so during that month of July in 2005, when I was recording what ended up being Siri, I really wasn't doing a whole lot else because, doing 4 hours a day of that type of work, I really had to rest my voice after that.
Interesting. So I want to get back to the business side of things, because I think what happens is, like, you have somebody who's like an aspiring actress or somebody who's just aspiring anything, and when they finally get the opportunity, they're so excited and they forget about the details, right? Like you said,
Right.
reading through the contract, etc. So can people make a lucrative living doing voiceovers? Like,
Oh
what's the
yeah.
average pay grade? Like, how do people approach this thing? Like, if somebody right now is practicing to be, kind of this artist that uses their voice, what's kind of the pay grade? How does it work?
Well, it differs from project to project. And if you're first starting out, you're probably not just, well, you can't just join the union unless you have some sort of experience. The union makes sure, if you belong to the union, that you get paid a certain amount of money. But the non-union stuff, there's not as much control over it. But if you're a true novice and you're just starting out, there are a lot of different production companies. I tell people like Voice123 and Voices.com and that sort of thing. And if you can get on their roster, they will just bombard you with auditions. And practice, practice, practice is what's going to help you. And so any time you can get any kind of practice, I highly recommend, as I said, taking acting classes, improv classes, just do anything you possibly can to utilize your skills. And even when you're practicing, not reading scripts, it's also important to be able to read cold. So you can practice on things like magazines and books, which aren't actually written to be read aloud, which means that a lot of those sentences will be way too long. And so you have to learn to deal with that. You have to learn where to take a breath, where the commas are, and you have to practice reading. You want to be really good at reading so that you can kind of see ahead in your script, and you can be, the easier you work, the better you are, the more you're going to get hired. Because if you're slow, or if you're not doing very well, if you can't take direction, you're not going to get hired again. And so it's very important to get the skills. It's not just enough to have a great voice. You can have a great voice. That's a wonderful way to start, but you need to be able to act, and you need to be able to read convincingly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's say I've got the skills, I've got the training, and I'm about to go into a meeting, and I need to know, like, what's the market rate for this stuff so I can actually negotiate, right, on my behalf. So what is that number? Like, what is the going rate?
I really don't know. I really don't know, because it changes. It's different from project to project.
Okay.
And a lot of what depends on is how many markets it's in. If you do a commercial and it's just for the car, dealership down the street, that's, you may just get paid as little as $100 or something if it's non-union. But if that's going to be, but if you get a gig for Toyota, or, Volvo or something, that's going to be national, that's going to mean thousands and thousands of dollars. Mm-hmm. But the point is, it's like anything else, you don't really start at the top. I mean, there are some people that just, because of their sound of their voice or something, or they just did a spectacular audition and they just happened to get that one at the first, very first chance they had. But that's unusual. Mostly it's like everything else in the workplace. You don't start at the top, you work towards the top.
Okay. Helpful. So basically, make sure you got some savings or something to help you out, because if you're first starting,
well, yeah, as I like to say, don't quit your day job.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It is something that you can do off hours. I mean, because you can do your recordings, and of course you do have to invest in it. It's not something that you want to be frivolous about, because everyone now has a home studio. And back in the day when I first built my home studio, it cost me thousands of dollars, because we didn't have smartphones at that point, and I built an actual studio. But if you have a smartphone, something called an interface, a mixer face, and a good microphone and a closet, you've got a studio.
Voila.
Yeah.
Studio.
Yeah.
Studio made at home.
That's right.
you knew since you were younger you wanted to use your voice.
No, that's not true.
Okay, so tell us.
I thought that I was very musical from the time that I was conscious, and I loved music, but I didn't really know that you could make money at it. You know, I didn't really know that you could do it as a career. But I did start working with my first band when I was in college. And actually, you know, it was a paying gig. It was, you know, the summers during college, I was in a band, and we worked, I think, 6 nights a week. And so, you know, I was one of those people that I didn't really have a specific dream. I know everyone these days talks about, oh, you know your goal and go towards your goal. And my journey was a little bit different, because I just kind of felt my way and tried different things. And I would have to say, if you put the karma out there of just accepting new things and trying new things, it's sometimes something wonderful comes back to you. If you make that leap of faith and just try some different things, you may think that is what you want, and on your way to that, you might find something that's even better. So yeah, just keep yourself open to all opportunities.
I love that. And also embrace change, right? If you need to pivot directly.
Exactly.
Which I think is the theme of 2020. Embrace change.
Right.
And don't be afraid to make a left, even though everybody's telling you to go right.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. So how do you take care of your voice?
Well, I think that if you just are careful about your health in general, you're taking care of your voice. But for me, I have a little bit of extra because I have allergies. And so I have to be careful that I don't overwork. But it's also important to just, you know, hot tea and that kind of thing, drinking lots of water. And for me, rest is important. Just, you know, making sure that my voice is rested.
So tell me, you said when you were doing the Siri project, you were at it for 4 hours a day for like 5 days a week. So does that mean like when you got home, you didn't speak to anybody? You didn't use your voice at all?
Yeah, I was pretty quiet, and I didn't do much other work, but I was already at home. I mean, I had a home studio. So yeah, Siri was recorded in my home in Atlanta, Georgia in 2005. Yeah. Yep.
What? So it wasn't even like a major production studio that you actually did the recordings for Siri?
Well, I worked through a company that I still work for here in Atlanta that does a lot of messaging work, called GM Voices. And they were the liaison company to the big IVR company called Nuance. And they're the ones that produced all the Siri voices. And I worked with a director, you know, over I forget how it was when I for 2005. I don't think we had the same technology that we have now. I know we didn't.
Right.
So it was probably on some kind of phone patch and getting direction.
Wait, hold on. I need to confirm. So did you record the voice of Siri in your own home studio?
Yep.
Wow.
In the basement of my old house, which no longer exists. They bought that street and built a school. So that house is no longer there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So did you get to, like, as, you know, Siri continued to grow, I mean, I don't know if this happens, but like, did you get to meet like the CEO? Did you get to meet the founder? Did you get to, like, I don't know, become a part of the Apple family? Or
no. Like, Apple didn't talk to any of us. Apple didn't even acknowledge any of us. The only acknowledgement I got was during a tech conference in, I think it was 2014. I met Steve Wozniak, who is Steve Jobs' partner. And in fact, he's a wonderful person. He and his wife are very involved in education, and he's just a very gracious man. And he, you know, all these, you know, techie nerds wanted to ask him questions, and he sat down and just talked to all these kids at the conference. And I had to go up on stage for just a short little Siri Q&A. And he told me, he said, Susan, he said, you really ought to look into this. He said, you're so comfortable on stage. You really ought to look into this. And so I have to thank him for my speaker career.
Interesting.
Yeah, he's the one that got me started on it. Yeah, it never would have occurred to me, really.
Yeah. No, that's so cool. I think that happens to a lot of people. You have somebody else recognize you for like your strength or something you do really well. And then it makes you think like, interesting. Maybe I should pursue this out, which I think is a good takeaway for people watching. And it's, you know, if people are telling you you're doing something good or you're good at something, like take note of that. Don't ignore that. because
Right.
that's usually like your thing that could
Right.
essentially turn into like your niche and what could become your career.
Right. That's what started off my whole voiceover career too. That one studio owner, Pete Caldwell at Doppler, got to say a little shout out to him. He said, Susan, you don't have an accent. Come over here and read this copy. It never would have occurred to me.
Right.
And I went, oh, I can do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, you never know. I mean, keep your eyes open and just and grab every opportunity you can, because you just never know where your place might be.
Interesting. So you've worked with some pretty well, on some pretty amazing projects. I read in your bio you did something on like a Mariah Carey Christmas special or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. I was in a skit that was on one of her Christmas specials, and I was the computerized voice in the car.
Ah,
I didn't actually get to meet her, which I
okay.
would have loved to, because what a singer.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, her vocals are insane. And
Yes.
then you got to do some work on the Queen Latifah Show.
Yep.
Right. So what was that? What was that project?
Well, it was kind of fun because it was just a little segment of her show. She had a TV show for a while, and I was one of her guests. And you know, before a show like that, they will take you aside and prep you. And they sort of had a little script that they wanted me to say. And one of the things that they said that they had Siri say didn't sound that funny to me, so I suggested something else. And they said, well, we'll run that by her and see what she says. And then they never came back to me. So when I was called up from the audience to go up on stage and talk with her, I just did the line that I made up anyway, and she played along. It was perfect.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah, it was really fun.
Sometimes you got to go with your gut on things.
Yep.
And then you also did a skit on the David Letterman show, right?
Well, I read the top 10 list
The top
for
10.
David Letterman. Yeah. That was,
Interesting.
that was his big thing, the top 10 list.
I
Yeah.
remember. So were you on like an actual live recording of the show, or did you pre-record it? Like, how did that work?
I actually ended up pre-recording it because I had just been in New York, and I'd just gotten back home from New York, and they wanted me to fly back up to New York to do the Letterman show. And I was supposed to fly to Los Angeles the next day. And I thought, well, gee,
That's a lot.
And so I said, well, maybe I could just record it at home. Would that be cool? And meanwhile, it was really funny because if you watch that little part, video on YouTube, David Letterman didn't know that I wasn't going to be there. And so he kind of messed up. He started to read the list himself. And then the next guest came on. It was Tom Hanks, and Tom kidded him, and he said, so I didn't make it to rehearsal this time, Dave, eh?
That's funny.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's so cool.
Yeah.
So you like to say that you became accidentally famous.
Yeah.
So what has that experience been like? I mean, obviously you've used it to your advantage, but I know for some folks, a lot of people feel like they want fame, they want to be in the spotlight, they want all this attention. So what has your experience been like, and what is your advice?
Well, I'll tell you what, that's one of the reasons that it took me a long time to reveal myself as the voice of Siri, because I knew Siri was going to be a big deal and she would be very famous. And I knew that some of her fame would rub off on me because it was my voice. And I'm very much an introvert. I mean, I can rise to the occasion and perform when I have to be, because I've been a performer my whole life. But basically, I'm an introvert. And so consequently, took me a really long time to reveal myself, because I just wasn't sure I wanted to deal with it all. And the fame aspect of it, I really never wanted fame. All I wanted was a lot of quality work, and to have the respect of not only my peers, but the people that I worked with, my clients and everything. And for the most part, knock on wood, I've had that. So the fame thing was just sort of like, ooh, yeah, I don't know if I want that. But it turned out to be the perfect amount of fame. I mean, it's allowed me to do some really fun things that I wouldn't have been able to do otherwise. But I'm not so famous that people recognize me or know me, when they see me. So I don't have the burdens that really famous people have.
Yeah. Got it. Okay, so my final question for you, which is a question I ask all of my guests, is why are you a woman who roars?
Well, I can't help but roar because I have 4 planets in Leo.
Okay. Okay.
A sun and a rising sign, and then a couple of others thrown in for good measure.
Right. Right. So it's just in you.
You know, I think that maybe I'm a woman who roars in the sense that, you know, even though I grew up at a time where women's rights weren't even talked about at that time, and I want to remind everyone that the ERA still has not been ratified, but I never thought of myself as a woman trying to do something. I just thought of myself as me trying to do something.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I, because I was in the arts, I wasn't on the end of discrimination as much as some other women were trying to do certain things, like, women who were trying to get ahead in business or in corporations or in, Fortune 500 companies. I mean, that was a much bigger stretch than for me just trying to find some success. For me, success was utilizing the gifts that I was given and being able to make a living doing what I love.
Mm-hmm.
So,
mm-hmm. I love that. I think you're a woman who roars exactly because of that, because a lot of people define success by how much money they make,
right,
or how many materialistic things they own,
right,
versus what are you good at? Does it bring you joy?
right.
Are you happy? Boom, that's
Yep.
success, right?
Yep. Yes.
So I love that. Well, thank you so much, Susan. I really appreciate you being on the series. This has been an absolute pleasure.
Well, thank you.
Honor. Because we've been carrying you around in our pockets, our purses for so many years. And it's just so amazing to finally meet the amazing person behind the Voice of series. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
Bye-bye.
Bye.